9:14 on the 21st of January. God, I can monologue. What can tell my tips about religion is how religion misrepresents the history of the universe and our existence and why we are so. This creation myth is complete nonsense. But aside from that, science is amazing. We live in a mathematical universe, 13.72 billion years ago, plus or minus 100 million years. Everything that you see around you was a singularity of infinite density and infinite tiny size, infamously small, probably smaller than the Planck scale, which is 10 to the minus 33rd or 34th of a meter. Physics breaks down at that scale. No one knows how quantum mechanics and relativity interacted, and still that's the biggest problem in science, finding the bridge between the big and the small. All the atoms were created, 100,000 years after the Big Bang? Not all the atoms, but hydrogen, helium, everything bigger than, I think, carbon or oxygen were created in stellar nucleogenesis when supernovae, stars collapse. When they run out of helium, their core can no longer support the way the star collapses. It explodes. That explosion creates all those atoms. The gold in your wedding ring, in your jewelry, if you look around you, it was probably formed by stars that exploded some billions of years before our solar system. That was once a giant molecular cloud, circled, condensed, and formed our solar system. That's just a simple principle as opposed to some omnipotent being, be it the flying spaghetti monster, Buddha, Allah, or God, the man in the bird of the sky, created all this. So, if the Quran says that man was created from a grain of sand, well, no, man wasn't created by a grain of sand. Man was created by quantum mechanics. The Earth formed some 4.5 billion years ago. Their crust was molten. There was no atmosphere. Cyanobacteria some 3.5 billion years ago created oxygen. The atmosphere allowed life to form. But evolution is not about the origin of life. Evolution is about the development and evolution of life. Scientists don't understand the origin of life. Sure, it's a balance of metabolism and replication, but you got to look at how clever life is at a quantum level, like the quantum events in biology, to name a few. Sure, we're monkeys, without hair. The difference between us and primates, there's like 35 million individual single polymorphic nucleotide changes that separates us from monkeys, specifically chimpanzees. 78% of our genome is exactly same as chimpanzees, except for like 1.23%. That's a bit of a monologue. But in terms of the quantum events in biology, look at cancer, for example. You got to be really unlucky at cancer. Take the p53 gene. It's a tumor suppressor gene discovered recently in the last 15 years. Who got the Nobel Prize in Physiology for that? Sir Martin Evans? I think so. I saw him at the Royal Society last year. When a cell makes a mistake, that gene shuts it down. It destroys it through apoptosis. But if you get an error in that gene, if it can only be transcribed to proteins, then that's the start of cancer. 2 cells that are mutant becomes 4, 16 becomes exponential growth. For example, a photon from the sun hits your body, it hits a cell, it hits the nucleus of the cell, it hits your chromatin, your unorganized DNA, it hits that gene. It specifically hits a thymine-based pair in that gene. It causes a hydrogen bond in that gene, which makes a kink. That gene can no longer be transcribed, so therefore that's the origin of skin cancer at a quantum level. But then you got to look at quantum events in biology. For example, a photon from the sun also hits chlorophyll. It hits it anywhere in the macromolecule, and it's found recently with femtosecond lasers. That's not a billionth of a billionth, but a millionth of a billionth. 10 to the minus 10, I think. It's pretty quick. The fastest laser is a pico laser. I forget. But aside from that, researchers found that looking at these molecules, the photon gets from its origin where it strikes the molecule, whatever bond it hits, it goes right to the reaction center instantaneously with making no mistakes. And to travel through that maze and make no mistakes, get there instantly, that's pretty close to impossible. It's what you call in mathematics an NP-complete problem, a non-polynomial deterministic problem, which is almost unresolvable because you need almost infinite computer power to work out that solution simultaneously. And it's believed that molecules can maybe do what's called quantum computation. Computers do serial processing where they work through problems in a linear manner with zeros and ones, but with quantum computation, it's in superposition where you have a 0 and 1 and a 0 and 1 at the same time. You have three options. Both exist at the same time. That allows the computer to run through all possible solutions all at the same time. So that's pretty amazing. But then you got to look at other quantum events in biology, specifically take microtubules. You know, it's a polymer of alpha and beta subunits, the protein tubulin, that forms like a brick wall, 13 layers that's rolled into a tube, and those polymers grow from the end. And in the centriole from the cell at anaphase 1 in metaphase, or maybe, mitosis or meiosis, when the cell divides and those chromosomes are lined up at the equator, those microtubules, those spindles grow out and grab the chromosome at the central mirror, the center of the chromosome, at a specific motif, a specific sequence where that chromosome has to be grabbed and pulled apart. And, you know, how does a macromolecule of protein grow from a pole and grab a specific motif in terms of the size of the diameter of that structural protein to the diameter of the cell, which is infamously small? It's pretty clever. So therefore, you got to assume that the electrons are running algorithms, computational decision-making processes that allow those proteins to make problem-solving like guesses. That's pretty cool. And a sperm finds the egg also by problem-solving. It you know, follows chemical messengers and hormones to track down the egg. And the sperm doesn't have a brain or a nervous system, nor does the paramecium, which can escape from a pipette tip, but it does have an internal structure of microtubules. You know, quantum events in biology are amazing. You know, in terms of biology, what all of our junk DNA does, the 98% that don't transcribe for proteins, those interons that get spliced out, you know, the conservation of interons across all mammal animal groups. Wow. The nail in the coffin for the creationists, those Muppets, they're so ignorant and stupid, they have no idea in biology and physics and mathematics. And I can go on and around about mathematics and how it links to biology in terms of emergent behavior, chaos theory, Fibonacci series, and also cellular automata. You know, Stephen Wolfram, his idea on cells and simple rules. There's 8 rules that make up the evolution of the cells. You can look at conch shells and see patterns in those shells, the pigmentations that exactly match Rule 90 of one of Wolfram's cellular automata. It's just beautiful. So you have to assume that with interons being spliced out and genes, how genes interact and the emergent behavior of genes, there's got to be algorithms that run, and we don't know what the algorithms are yet and how all these proteins interact. There's nothing magical about life. You don't need something more to get something more. It's the result of physics and quantum mechanics and how clever chemical bonds and electron transfer is. But I was rambling on about interons or something. I forget. Interons, the conservation of interons. Yeah, anyway. So that's my take on life. But when you start reading across physics, cosmology, biology, paleontology, you start to realize how beautiful and amazing life is. You don't need something more to get something more. That's a quote by Gellerman, the Nobel Prize in Physics, who, I guess, resolved the Standard Model. You know, how beautiful the universe is in terms of it being a mathematical structure. Like, you look at the Standard Model, 6 leptons, 6 quarks, 4 other particles. Mathematically, you had to add another particle, which is called the Higgs boson, the Higgs field. That Higgs field has to exist to give mass to all the other particles. You know, LHC, the LHC at CERN, they're looking for that Higgs boson, and when they find it, it vindicates how amazing science is. Science is discovered, religion is invented. It's nonsense. It's truly nonsense. Yeah, when you have quantum events and quantum computation operating at a molecular level in our cells, and you have emergent behavior, like, life becomes very amazing. Yeah, existence is pretty cool. To think that everything around you was once a singularity and didn't exist. And here we are, aware, and we're going to create a quantum computer that will know the theory of everything, that will solve NP-complete problems and solve every game of chess or checkers simultaneously with another quantum robot. Like, that's the future of science. It's a reality. Like, man is going to evolve into a machine-based life. The seventh kingdom of life might be machine-based. We're just a stepping stone on the evolution of computational devices. 20,000 years ago, if you sat down with a Cro-Magnon or Neanderthal in northern France and explained what the internet was and what Facebook was and how you could have a digital footprint of everybody that existed, they would think that you were insane. So, yeah, the future will be so much more different than it was 20,000 years ago. It's fucking amazing. That's my take on my monologue of absolute bollocks. Love science.